Back in action on a Monday. It is orange and blue today. Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason talking about how do you define success, Mason? This conversation about success stems from a conversation that you had with someone that is very successful and just kind of looking forward to this season. Let's go over it, man. A lot of people are excited about this team. How can we define success?
Well, now that we have the schedule, we've known the who and the what. Now we know the when. We know what order the games are going to be in. I feel like we can kind of wrap our arms around it a little bit more. How do you define success for the Denver Broncos in the 2025 season? At the simplest, most elemental way, I think you define success by record and how far you go in the postseason. And I would say success by record involves winning more games than you won the previous year. And success by postseason is advancing farther, going farther than you did last year, which means win at least 11 games, and it means go at least to the divisional playoffs.
That's success for the Broncos in 2025, Mace. You've said something on one of our schedule recap shows, and we thank everyone for watching that hell out of those shows here on YouTube, about like they can be a better team and have a similar record.
Yeah.
And perhaps even the same record. So if we're going to start with 11, which is the definition of success, like, okay, what if it's 10? Can they be considered a success, or does it fully lie on postseason success? So they could have 10 wins again, squeak into the postseason, and then have an upset in the wild card round.
Then it's about postseason. Then it's okay. At the end of the day, you're feeling pretty good because ultimately it is about postseason, because if you win 12 and you have the same outcome as you did last year, you maybe call it a partial success, but I think ultimately it's going to be about the postseason. That's what it does come down to, how deep you go. And I'll say this as well. If you win the division and go out in the first round, you'll probably say, okay, you probably call that a successful season, even though you're going to be frustrated with losing in the first round because you did get that home game. Man, you're going to be disappointed because you blew the home game, right?
Yep.
You're going to be, you'll step back in a few weeks after the season, and you'll be like, yeah, we did a good job to win 12 games, but you're going to think, oh man, you're going to feel like that's an opportunity lost. Oh, I don't know if you're going to call that a success. I mean, I think I'm tempted to say it's a success because you did set yourself up with the opportunity. And I hate to get too caught up in maybe just having a bad day, as John Fox once said, picking a bad day to have a bad day, because sometimes that happens in the postseason. The postseason, a one-game situation, you can get random outcomes.
Right.
But boy, and it could happen. You could go 12-5, win the division. I mean, I think the type of record you're talking about, Cease, could end up with winning the division.
Yes.
Because you've got them at 13. They could go 13-4 and win the division. But we've seen it with past Sean Payton teams. They had a gaudy record in 2019 in New Orleans, and they went out there against Minnesota in the wild card round and they lost. It does happen. Yeah. How would you feel if that's the outcome for this team? If they won 12 or 13 games, came home in the wild card round, and then were one and done? Because that could happen. And the AFC playoff race is going to be deep enough where it could happen. Now, whether it does, the likelihood of that happening, that might take a hit depending on what happens this week with the vote at the owners' spring meetings, because if they do pass the revision of playoff seeding, all of a sudden I think it's a little bit less likely that 12-5 might have you out of the postseason, because perhaps that might give you a little bit better playoff matchup, perhaps. But man, I'd be feeling pretty bummed out if this team got to 12 wins, got in the postseason, and then was one and done. Even though that is a potential outcome, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
Certainly realistic.
Right, yeah, imagine them running into a hot buzzsaw. The Bengals are the hottest team at the end of the season, something like that. I mean, it's possible, Mason. Then imagine the conversation we'd have, because it'd be like they're on a crash course with Baltimore, or they're on a crash course with Buffalo. Let's hurry up and just get to the AFC Championship, because we know it's going to be one of these three teams, something like that. And to have it derailed, I mean, that would be a gut punch, regardless of your 12 or 13 wins.
Yeah.
Playoff football is just different. Success for me, partly, and we'll get into the metrics of this conversation probably in a much later show, but it's also, can you win in different ways? Sean Payton wants to pass all day. I want to see this team grind out an ugly win on the ground. You know what I mean? They had to hold on to a lead, and you had, hell, it's Audric Estime. Right now, it's Audric Estime. But you have a big, powerful back that can grind it out late in the game, kind of your closer in the fourth quarter. That's playoff football to me, Mace. So maybe that'd make me feel a little bit better if during the regular season they could show some of that as well.
Well, I think you need to have some of those games early to set up some late season games like that. Maybe a game like that, say, against the Jets, for example. That's the sort of game that I think in the first couple of months of the year sets up as the potential game that you've got to grind out and find a way to win, and win a bit ugly. Just sort of think about the circumstances of that one. You're coming off of playing Cincinnati and Philadelphia, so maybe you're a bit tenderized by those games. You've got the long trip to London, so maybe you're kind of not jet lagged, because by then, if you're making that trip Monday night into Tuesday, you should be back on schedule, but you've still kind of maybe seen some sights a little bit and gotten on the town a little bit. Maybe your mind's on other things, and you're maybe looking not past the Jets because you've got the Giants the following week, but you've had a couple of games where you've gone against really good teams, and maybe you're looking past the Jets just a smidgen. And the Jets are a team, they've got some talent, they've got some power running, some speed running. They can grind it out on you. Maybe you've got to win that game in a little bit of a struggle. And certainly as we saw last year, with obviously a different quarterback, different set of circumstances, maybe the game takes on the nature of being a bit of a struggle. So maybe that's a game early that takes on those sort of qualities, and it sets up perhaps a game, say, against a Green Bay or Kansas City down the stretch, where you find a way to beat a really good team and do so grinding it out. So maybe it's a game early that sets up a later game, a game early against a lesser team that sets up a late season game against a really good team, where you're grinding it out. That lays the groundwork for winning that type of game in the postseason, because the type of football that does win in the playoffs, it's not always football flying around. It's grinding it out. It's being able to win on the ground. It's defense. There's an old saying that in the postseason, defense and a running game travels, as in you can take that on the road and you can win football games. You can win on a cold, nasty day if you've got defense and a ground game. Doesn't matter where you go. Buffalo, they came very close to winning in Kansas City And part of the reason was they had those things. They had especially the ground game going for it. Didn't have the defense in the end in Kansas City, but we saw against the Broncos, they certainly had the ground game. And probably you look maybe at some things that went against Buffalo and say, yeah, they should have won that game in Kansas City. They certainly had the elements. It's part of why the Bills left so frustrated. And so the Broncos need to have those elements going for them as well. So they've got the best chance to win in January, no matter where the game is.
Yeah, no matter where the game is, no matter how it unfolds, playoff football is just different. So looking forward to this season, Mace, I think, all right, find different ways to win. And then there's an old saying, and perhaps you disagree with it. I don't know. We've never really talked about it. You're going to lose one, you're supposed to win, and you're going to win one, you're supposed to lose. All right, that's fine. But defining success for me, and I'm not saying carbon copy of Kansas City. How often do I reference those one-score games, right?
Yeah.
If you're a successful team, if they are truly in the NFL elite, and that's 13 games, if they're going to get 12, 13, and the number is 13, then you're going to have to show the mettle to win those one-score games, regardless of it's a shootout or if it's grinding it out on the ground.
How many teams get deep into the postseason and succeed without having a winning record in one-score games?
Right.
Yeah. Now, the Chiefs obviously were gaudy and an outlier in such games, which is why I do expect some regression to the mean this coming year. But I don't expect them to all of a sudden go like 5-8 in such games. When I say I expect some regression, I just mean they don't go undefeated again.
Right.
That they don't have everything go right. Some of that is an outlier, that they were so good to that extreme. But some of it is also, it's a mature team that does know how to win games. And some of it is that they do just enough. They know innately, they know as a mature contending team how to just get across that finish line and then go on to the next week. The Broncos are not yet at that point. They're a ways off. They're not at that stage of their development just yet. Be nice to get there, but they're a long way from that, and that's okay.
It's natural.
Yes. But you look last year at some of the close games, the Cincinnati game, for instance, even the game in Kansas City. I tip my cap to the Chiefs for that game in Kansas City because it's not something I look at as a what if or something flukish. It's frustrating, yes, but I don't look at it in the same way as I look at, for example, what happened in the Colts game. Even though the Colts game wasn't a close game, the Colts game turned on something that was beyond the Broncos' control. It turned on a gaffe, turned on something that was just random chance, basically a mistake. Whereas the Chiefs Broncos game was something that the Chiefs did did tactically. It was in the run of play. It was something in their preparation. So I give them credit. I give them credit for that. It's part of what makes them so successful over the years. It's not just Patrick Mahomes. It's not just Travis Kelce. It's a good coaching staff. It's a good organization and from a football perspective that prepares and drills and gets that team ready to play on a week-to-week basis. So, and it's a secret sauce that allows them to win a lot of games that other teams wouldn't win. And they deserve credit for that. But the Broncos are getting there. The Broncos have won some games that some organizations wouldn't win the last couple of years. And I think it's part of what's allowed them to microwave this over the last couple of years. I think they probably got 10 wins last year from a team that maybe should have won 9, perhaps. Maybe 8 or 9. Or maybe it was a 10-win team that probably with a different set of circumstances would have won 8 or not, would have won 8 or 9, but they're still getting there. They're still getting there, I think.
Yeah, and there's an air of inevitability in
Yeah.
those type of games against a team like Kansas City.
Yeah.
You know, can the Broncos build that reputation? Mace, perhaps not this year, but with Sean Payton, we know that type of
Excuse me.
reputation could be coming, right?
Yeah. We know that could be coming at the same time with his teams in New Orleans. We also know that there were valleys to go with the peaks. See, the
Mhm.
frustrating thing sitting here in Denver with the Chiefs in the Andy Reid era is where have the valleys been since 2013? Let's just go all the way back. And since you put Reid and Mahomes together since 2018, what have the valleys been? I mean, 2018 through 2025 or 2024, pardon me, in those 7 years, I mean, the valley looks like losing to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. That's what's so frustrating. Now, if you look at the entire Andy Reid era, the valley is going 9-7 and missing the playoffs, but they still had a winning record. Still good. That's what if you're the Broncos and you're the Chargers, it's what flummoxes you to still is that you Reid and Mahomes, the 7 years together, the worst of it was still what would be a magnificent season for almost any team. And that's what makes you just say, damn, okay. Like, you know, they're the road runner and you're Wile E. Coyote. And the Broncos and Chargers are sitting there with all these Acme products. How do we catch the Roadrunner? Or it's, you know, Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny. You know, that Wescally Wabbit.
Wabbit season, duck season, wabbit season.
Yes. How do we get them? Like, how do you get them? You know, Dr. Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes. I mean, you can just go down the list, right? You know, Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. How do you finally catch the white whale without being mentally tortured? How do you finally get the Chiefs without it just driving you mad? Because at this point today, do I feel pretty good about the chances of reeling in the Chiefs finally and knocking them off their perch? I do, even though the Chiefs have made some interesting moves this offseason. I do like their draft, but I do feel like there will be a bit of regression. Again, I don't think they're going to suddenly become a bad team in close games, but I think there'll be a bit of regression where they come back to the pack. I do feel like the Broncos are a better team today than they were at the end of last season. I do feel like they made the moves on the defensive side to shore up some things, and I think they're skilled players on offense as they head into another year forward. Marvin Mims Jr., Troy Franklin, Devon Fale, they will be better. I think the Broncos will be a better running team, getting RJ Harvey in there, getting another year forward from Audric Estime. I think they will be a better ground team than they were last year. I think the offensive line being together for another year, I think they can be even better than they were last year. And that's saying a lot because they were number one in pass block win rate and run block win rate. So there you go. And I certainly, the biggest thing is that Bo Nix should be better in year 2 than he was in year 1 as he settles in Sean Payton's scheme. All these things are true. Now, the defense may take a half step back on the whole, even though you bring in these additions, because maybe the pass rush isn't quite as good as it was last year. But overall, you balance that out with what you add in terms of the spine of the defense, in terms of bringing Greenlaw, Hufanga, and getting Alex Singleton back to where hopefully the defense is better overall. So the big picture, the Broncos are a better team. Is that enough? Or are we going to be sitting there in January looking at the Chiefs having yet another home game as division champions?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, man. And is it a successful season if the Broncos are still staring up at the Chiefs in the standings? Is it? Or is success defined by making sure the Broncos are looking down at the Chiefs for a change after these last 9 seasons of looking up at their neighbors to the east.
Gonna have a crick in your neck from looking up that long.
It's frustrating in
It
Broncos country. The Broncos only had 5 years of looking down at Kansas City. Felt like it was going to last forever. Who knew that when the Chiefs became division champions, who knew that on that night, Thanksgiving weekend in Denver, when the Chiefs defeated the Broncos in overtime on Sunday Night Football, who knew that was the passing of the baton? Maybe on Thursday Night Football on Christmas night, there'll be another passing of the baton. We'll see. We're fixing to find out, as the coach from back in 2016, Gary Kubiak, would say.
It's the greatest saying of all time. Let us know how you define success in the comment section below. Is it as simple as knocking off the Chiefs? It is as simple as getting 11 wins instead of 10. Is it as simple as winning a playoff game? Or maybe you've got your own idea. Let us know in the comment section right here on YouTube. And Mace, we always appreciate everyone's support. But how can people best support us here on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey, saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty,